This is the quintessential picture of one of the most influential men in my life. The man for whom I was named, and the man for whom, well, if it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't be here this evening. Gerrit Janssen was born in Friesland in the Netherlands. After immigrating to Canada, he became known as Harry Jansen. I called him Paka, my grandpa. My Paka was a brilliant and compassionate man. He was also an avid gardener. He was the type of man for whom his garden became more than a pastime. It was an avocation. It was a way for him to connect with his community by giving away much of what he grew. And it was in the final year of his life, having barely survived his second massive heart attack and suffering from congestive heart failure, that my Papa decided that he was going to grow his ultimate garden. This would be his magnum opus. All winter, he pored over seed catalogs, finding just the right varieties that would thrive in his garden. He plotted out his garden in minute detail to ensure that everything had its place. He even created checklists to make sure that nothing would be missed. In the spring, he invited his sons-in-law to help him prepare and plant his garden, which meant that while they dug, turning over soil and mixing in bales of peat moss, Paka sat on the sidelines, oxygen tank in tow, supervising every shovelful. In the ensuing weeks, the rest of his family got involved as well. They willingly devoted hours of their time to helping Paka tend his garden, except for the one job Paka would never relinquish. Early mornings, you could find him when he was able, in his garden, in his klompen, his wooden shoes, watering his beloved plants, but not using the cold Lake Ontario tap water, because that would be just too cruel. No, Paka insisted on only using rainwater warmed by the sun. For some reason this year, his bean plants held particular interest for him. Perhaps it was because of the plight of his bush beans, which he discovered could not support their own weight, and the beans themselves were growing in the dirt, and well, that would never do. So Paka devised a system that supported the weight of the plants, elevating the beans so that they were free to grow in the air, in the sun, and the rain. And did it pay off? Was it worth it? I'd love to tell you that my Paka witnessed an amazing end to his ultimate garden, that he was personally able to distribute the produce from that garden. But I can't. My Paka passed away early in July of that year. He never saw the final harvest. He didn't get to witness the bushels upon bushels of produce that were harvested from that garden. Produce that was then given away to family, to friends, to neighbors, and to the community around. Nor did he get to see the smiles on the faces of the people who, after attending his funeral, were invited back to his home to receive gifts. They received gifts of bushels, baskets, and bags of beans from that incredible garden. A bumper crop of beans. The beans were so plentiful that year that I guarantee you today, if you were to go to visit my relatives and dig into their gardens, somewhere you would still find a bag of frozen beans from that garden some 22 years ago. A bag of beans that was grown from a pocket full of peas. Yeah, that's right. You heard me. My pocket grew beans from peas. He took his passion for gardening, for growing, and for giving. He harnessed that passion with a sense of purpose. And then he gave that sense of purpose direction by putting a detailed plan into place. When he had a detailed plan in place, it made it much easier for him to solicit the participation of those around him. And he did it all with panache, in his own inevitable style. And so, there's a simple story behind that photograph, but more importantly, there's the lesson, a simple lesson in success that I learned from the life of one of the wisest men I know. And I'd like to ask you now, what could you do? What dreams and legacies could you build? What would your ultimate garden look like? What is your magnum opus? Could you use a pocket full of peas? My pocket has long since passed away. I still miss him, but I do have this photograph. and a wonderful reminder of the man and the lesson he taught me. I can almost hear him now. Can you? Harold, if you're going to grow beans, you need a pocket full of peas. Thank you.